Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll be having a look at the latest GFS, GEM, Ecmwf, Gfs Ensembles, and then we'll have a look at some of the GFS precipitation charts and the live radar, as we're finally seeing some quite widespread rain for many areas. Do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Twitter as well, if you want more up-to-date charts and maps as well. So now we'll get into the video. So currently we have a look at the latest GFS, and you can see this small area of low pressure that's been sinking southwards with some quite cold air behind it. It's been bringing this sort of showery, heavy rain over the last sort of 12 to 24 hours. Now it's going to sit out in France, and it's going to keep sort of a northeasterly flow, and some quite cold air is going to come in from behind it. This will mean some precipitation does turn to snow over towards northern Scotland, perhaps parts of northern England as well, primarily over around 300-400 metres, again with some evaporative cooling perhaps to lower levels than that, but again not expecting anything too much from that, as again we are almost getting into May now, so any snow is few and far between. There is still a decent chance of perhaps hail, where we do see some big convection, as it's likely we're going to see sort of a April showers scenario. Normally we get that with a northwesterly wind, but this will be more of a northeasterly wind, so eastern areas and northern areas will be most prone to those sort of April showers, where they only last 5 or 10 minutes, but can be quite heavy with hail and even some lightning perhaps within that. If we keep running on beyond that, you see we maintain under lower pressure, but you see the isobars do sort of spread out a little bit, which means there are decent chance of some overnight frost potentially, with still some showers around. Beyond that, you can see sort of small little features and low pressures coming off the Atlantic, as the Atlantic and westerly winds try to break through the block, and you can see the block just gets cut off really, and the Azores High retreats backwards. Now there's one interesting thing about this, is the jet stream is actually displaced much further southwards, which means ahead of these lows you can see we do start to bring up some quite warm air perhaps, and you can see into past southeast you can bring up some warmer air, but it does mean the centre of the lows are going to be much further southwards, so the bulk of the rain will actually be over England perhaps, not lesser Scotland, but you can see some colder air on that northern edge. It could turn things quite interesting in Scotland over the hills. Could see some late season quite heavy snowfall over sort of the highlands. Could give quite a dumping if we do see these weather fronts bump into the colder air. Beyond that, we maintain with this sort of a low pressure, but sort of a northerly sort of flow. You can see these. You can still see we've got blocking in the Atlantic, but we are sitting over this low pressure, and you can see there are these quite deep deep with tightly packed isobars, areas of low pressure. Could be named storms, considering it's quite late in the year now. For winter storms, which means trees are into leaf, so 50-60 miles an hour winds can be much more destructive and impactful than if they were 2 or 3 months ago when most trees were bare. So even though it doesn't look, you'd say in the winter, I wouldn't call this a storm, I wouldn't be surprised if Met Office maybe named one of these coming through, as I'm seeing a lot of the runs, I'm seeing these small features developing. Beyond that, again, we maintain this northerly wind, and it's pretty chilly indeed. Will probably be one of the coldest places on our latitude, with these northerly winds. So yeah, it'll be very interesting indeed. See how cold May comes out with as well, and you can see we maintain this northern wind all the way coming up from Svalbard. Again, the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks we've had, if we had this in January, we really would be in the freezer on sort of levels where temperatures really hardly got above freezing for a good few weeks, considering the amount of northerly winds we've had. It'd be really quite cold, but it's May, so even though the upper airs are chilly, it's nothing too substantial, and by the end of the run, the Atlantic is starting to break through with westerly winds returning once again. Higher pressure, though, trying to make an impact, but again, definitely does look more low pressure dominated. If we now have a look at the GM, see how it compares to the GFS, you can see again, very similar pattern over the next few days, and as we head towards the weekend, again, the flow is a bit more slack, so it means there's a higher chance of frosts, maybe some more sunshine as well, so temperatures could rise up a bit higher in the day, but still be pretty chilly at night. Beyond that, you see low pressure tries to develop. Again, this one going for a channel low, which would be quite impactful as well. Strong winds on its back edges with those tightly packed isobars. Quite heavy rain as well for southern England, southeastern parts, which do need the rain. Quite significant with that, perhaps. And again, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, but again, the jet stream is more southerly tracked. So these lows are rattling through a bit further southwards, impacting more sort of Wales, southern England, Midlands more than northern England and Scotland, which we usually see. You see there is a bit of blocking still over towards Greenland, and it's aiding this little ridge trying to build over the country towards day 10. Again, it doesn't look like it's going to have much luck with low pressure back out in the Atlantic trying to make more of an influence. Again, whenever we do see high pressure trying to build in with Atlantic lows, it still does give us a decent chance of pulling up a southerly flow. So although at the moment the next 7 days are looking cold, as the Atlantic starts to break through more, I could see sort of a flip-flopping scenario where we see a sort of a zonal sine wave where we see colder sectors and warmer sectors. And being May, those warmer sectors could be quite warm indeed, could be 20 plus degrees. You can see with some of these upper airs, all you need is a clear day, which if this ridge holds on for long enough, we'll get this quite timing, you could get a day or two of 20 plus degrees before it drops down to 13, 14 degrees as the rain bands and the weather fronts move in. So it's not a complete write-off for any warmer weather, but any sustained warmer weather definitely doesn't look particularly likely. Now we'll compare to the Ecmwf, again very similar to both the other models throughout the first few days. As we get towards next week, you can see those lows rattling off the Atlantic. Again, jet stream displaced southwards going through northern France, seeing lows coming in off the Atlantic quite deep as well. These lows towards day 10 are more centred over towards Scotland, so that's where the bulk of the showers will be, but still blustery winds in the south, driving in westerly winds, and again we'll have some showers within that. The upper airs are relatively mild, so overnight frost will be cut out as this low pressure moves in. But again, not too warm, and as we head towards day 10, you can see more warm airs coming up from the south, but it's being brought up by another area of low pressure, perhaps. That could bring some quite heavy rain indeed with it. So it's definitely looking like in the longer term, we're quite blocked at the moment, but beyond about 7 days, the Atlantic is going to be breaking through, and it does look like it could be going pretty stormy, at least for this time of year, with quite deep and localised areas of low pressure, and could give quite gusty winds and some heavy rain to some areas. But it does look like it will be probably going a bit warmer with that. If we now have a look at the Gfs Ensembles, you can see over the next sort of week or so, you can see that it's quite cold air. We've got around -3 to -6 degrees, 850 HPA. Beyond that, as we head towards maybe 4th, 5th of May, you can see very unsettled on the precipitation charts, but temperatures do slowly recover. And you can see there's a lot of scatter, some going quite warm, some going quite cold. And again, this is probably symbolic of a zonal sine wave, and just the timings for each ensemble member is 6 or 12 hours out. So that's why looking quite scattered at the moment, but I suspect over the next few days it will clean up quite a lot, and we will see quite up and down conditions if this zonal pattern does come off. In the longer term, generally around average, some ensemble members going quite cold, some going very warm, even some going off the charts warm. But very difficult to call at the moment, as we've been in a very blocked pattern, but it does look like we're going to break out of it. But what happens after that initial sort of low pressure spell of a few days, you can see there with that big precipitation. Some ensemble members, you can definitely see it going a little bit drier. So obviously some ensemble members bringing back higher pressure, but then obviously others are remaining with the lower pressure. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens with that as we head towards the middle of May. We are due some warmer weather. Normally this time of the year we've seen 20-25 degrees or so. By the middle of May we'd have normally seen 20-25 degrees, so it's quite unexpected this year to have not seen sort of temperatures like that widely and for more than a couple days. If we now have a look at the GFS precipitation type, so we just have a look at what sort of rain, and you can see that GFS run I showed you earlier is very, very low pressure dominated, so I'm expecting a lot of rain on this, and we'll also have we'll have a look at that first. So if we run through, you can see rain in the south at the moment, so quite a lot of rain in the south, perhaps giving quite a soaking in southern England. Beyond that, again, more showers and rain, and then you can see sort of that easterly wind coming in, driving in showers, perhaps some snow showers over Scotland. And you can see during the day they spike up with the sun strength, fueling convection. Then they die away overnight, perhaps giving out frost, and then in the day they come back before dying away overnight, and then again in the day they come back, and we see the flow starts to change as we head into early next week, with weather fronts coming in off the Atlantic. Very heavy rain for southern England, could give quite a soaking indeed. And then beyond that, snow in the north, as we got colder air there. That's why I said there's a chance we could see some big snow events over the hills. And then again, low pressure coming into the south, bringing heavy rain once again, and then another big area of low pressure, leading edge, perhaps snow. Further southwards and eastwards, a lot of rain, and we'll stop at day 10, and as you can see again, more and more rain spiraling around these areas of low pressure as we get to day 10. You can see continued rain and quite a lot of snow over some Scottish mountains. If we do have a look at snow depths, we'll have a look, and you can see even parts of northern England could have a couple centimetres, and parts of the Highlands could have perhaps up to 20 centimetres of snow. Again, it'll be right over the top of the hills and the mountains, so I don't suspect anywhere that's vastly populated will see a lot of snow. But it's just going to be interesting to see early May. We've still got a decent chance of seeing some quite widespread snow over the hills and the mountains over quite a long period of time. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how much of that does come off. If we now have a look at the live radar, if we just refresh it briefly, it does unfortunately time out. If we go back, we'll look at the live radar in a minute, but if we go back to the past 24-hour precipitation, move that all the way to now, back to full screen, you can see where we've seen the bulk of the rain. See the heavy rain is sort of the West Midlands down into the southwestern parts and southern England. You can see that's really where the rain is pepped up. I did say in my video yesterday that it's convection based, where the heaviest stuff will be, and you can see quite locally we saw perhaps an inch of rain, whereas areas just 50 miles away saw only a few millimetres. You can see widely though, most areas have seen some rain at least. Perhaps parts of the London area in the southeast haven't seen as much rain, but right now there's a rain band along the south, and we'll look at that in a minute. So I do suspect those rainfall totals will be topped up quite a lot over the next sort of 6 hours or so. Again, a lot more showers coming over in the next few days, and then as we head into next week, are looking like those western and southern areas could get quite a lot of rain as we're seeing those weather fronts come in. If we now have a look at the live radar, you can see with this rain band over the south, quite heavy rain. And where we see the heaviest rain is quite localised, but it's slowly moving sort of south and eastwards under the spiraling of this low pressure. And you can see there's even a few thunderstorms perhaps towards sort of Bournemouth and southern coastal areas. But yeah, quite heavy rain will provide quite widespread rain totals for many areas. Most areas will see perhaps 5-6 millimetres. Perhaps some areas may see another half inch of rain or so. Further northwards, we've still got a few patchy areas of light rain as we're still under a low pressure influence, but generally the rain has sort of petered out in the north. But we have seen quite a lot of rain there. You can already see showers starting to fire off over towards Scotland, even some snow perhaps with that. Now if we go into the futurecast, you can see the rain slowly pivoting southwards and slowly pivoting eastwards. And if we got it to continue to load, you can see still remain fairly stationary before it starts to peter out overnight tonight, and the main area of low pressure heads more into Europe. So yeah, many areas could be seeing quite a lot of rain over the next few weeks. At the moment though, it's mostly rain in southern England, and then we'll have April showers coming from a northeasterly direction, which is quite unusual, towards over the next few days, and then early next week it does look like the Atlantic will be opening up again. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.